Stampers, it's Linda Schmidt with Stampin' with the Hounds. Welcome back to my channel. If you are new, I'm so glad you joined me today. So I had meant to do this video a long time ago, and so I have a ton of samples because it was one of my kind of a fun fold that it's not really a fold. I guess it's kind of a fold. It's called like a split panel, or they kind of heard it called a couple different things, but I'm calling it a split panel. So basically, you're just taking your card, and then you just kind of cut it either at an angle, or you can go up and down. It doesn't really matter how you cut it. You're just cutting off a section, and then it's held together by die cuts. So it's still going to be the same, A2 size for what I did here. And like I said, you can do a landscape style, you can do a portrait, you can do the diagonals, you can do, a vertical lines. I mean, the ideas are endless on it. So, but these are just a bunch of cards that I obviously I kind of went to town on this fold. But we are going to be doing this one today. But I'll kind of go through some of these just to show you a little bit better. But you can do either like embossing folders, which is what I did on this one. And then it's just like, again, it's just held together by that die cut. And a lot of times when I'm doing this, I take that same die cut, especially if it's like a big image like this butterfly, and I'll do it in the inside so that when I go to make when I write, I know I'm not going to be, you're not going to see the lettering through that. So that's kind of one thing when you keep in mind when you're doing these, just to pay attention to that. So that's one using the embossing folder. Here's another one using an embossing folder, and this is that birch embossing folder. And then I cannot believe it's retiring, my In the Grove and Grassy Grove, like two of my favorite masculine card stamps and dies are retiring. So if you do not have these sets, I would say get them, because this is one of my go-to sets. But here's another one, like I said, where I did that circles holding it together. And so on this one, I knew when I did my stamping, I kind of paid attention to where that circle was so that you don't see that saying. And then when I go to write, I'll make sure I'm right below there. So that's another one with that embossing folder. And then I also had done some with stenciling. So again, I just took the cardstock and I stenciled it. So again, this is another one that is a diagonal kind of cut. And this one uses, I kind of did like a picture frame. And so a lot of our online exclusive, we got a ton of new items that just came out. And this frame is actually from the frame scene. So it's got this little wooden frame, and then there's ovals and like a little texture piece. So that's what I did on this one. And then I just did my pattern paper to make it look like a painting. And then these are the sketched butterflies that are retiring. So if you don't have those, now is a good time to stock up on and get those in your inventory. And then again here, when you cut out this frame, you get this rectangular piece, and that's what I put on the inside so that I knew, you won't see my writing on the inside or from the outside when you look at the card. So again, that's kind of with the stenciling. And then the rest of these are with just pattern paper. So this one I did with the arched dies, and this is another online exclusive. This is called Arched Wishes. So it's kind of a fun, nice birthday set. And then I had done some of that celebration toadstool paper because I had some of it left over. So that's another one. So again, that's a pretty big arched die, so I'm pretty safe, when I do my writing and stuff on there. And then this one, it's not a Stampin' Up, but I had it for my little, my nieces and nephews who love donuts. That's why I kind of got this set. But this is another one where I kind of just did, it's being held together by that die cut, and then I just did some of the pattern paper. And then these, instead of doing the diagonal, I just did a straight cut. So that's, keeping it fairly simple. So these are using another online exclusive set. This is the You Are Remarkable. It's a really pretty kind of flower, and it's got some nice sayings in it. So that was on this one. And then, again, I kind of did that same spotlight on nature shape so that when I do my writing, I just stay within this part of it. And then here's another one, again, just doing that straight cut and then just using the circle dies for it. And again, that's that really pretty You Are Remarkable, and then some of that retired celebration paper. I did really like this paper. I don't know why. The little mushrooms. And then another, I love this little guy. This is another online exclusive. This is called Resourceful Rusty. And he's like, you know, he could be a squirrel, a fox, a chipmunk. You know, I made him into a raccoon. I mean, the ideas are endless on how you want to color in that little guy. But on this one here, I kind of made him look like like a fox, I guess, on that one. And then I did that arch dies and then the everyday sky. So on here, I did double layer. So I went up a size on my arch die, but it's just he's just so funny. And then this background is another online exclusive, which is Wooded Acres. I really like this set. It's just a real simple, subtle background that you can add to your card. So again, these are kind of two that go really well together. And again, those are all on those online exclusives. So again, there's my little Resourceful Rusty and his little apples. I just love the sayings. They're so cute. He's so funny. And then again, here I made him into a raccoon. Not gonna lie, it was a lot of coloring. Yeah, so, and again, there's that Wooded Acres background on this bottom here. So super fun. Love it, love it. All right, so we are going to do the one using another online exclusive set. And I'm going to show you how to do it with the embossing folder. So I'm using Natural Botanicals, and this was it's in the mini catalog, and then they had it as a extra celebration. So it's still available, and this will be carrying over into the new catalog that comes out in May. And then, excuse me, I'm also doing another new online exclusive. This is the mini corrugated embossing folder. So that's what's giving this nice little corrugated look, which is kind of fun. And then the other things that we're going to be using, these are again online exclusives. These are textured notes. I just did the sayings on it. And then what I love are the coordinating textured note dies. These are just some great rectangular shaped dies that have some really pretty textured borders that go around it. So it's another good staple to put into your inventory. All right, so we are going to get started. We're going to do, like I said, the diagonal one. And really, you can, now I did kind of measure it when I'm doing the cutting, but you can totally freehand it and just kind of guesstimate when you do it. But I will show you how I cut everything. So again, on this one, I'm doing it as the long way. So it's that 4 1/4 by 11. So that is the first thing you're going to need is just your cardstock. So again, 4 1/4 by 11. I just fold it in half. The other way of doing it, again, this is the landscape, would just be that 5 1/2 by 8 1/2, and then you would just score that in half at 4 1/4. So you can do it either way. The measurements are going to be the same when we go to do the cutting on both of those. And then because I like to have the designer series paper showing through, that piece on the inside is just 4 by 5 1/4. And again, this is with that textured notes suite. There's this really pretty pattern paper that's kind of got the texture with it. So it's kind of like that little, like a basket weave almost. So that's going to go on the inside. And then whatever you want to hold your pieces together, again, I'm using some of the textured notes die cuts. And so I've got the pattern paper, which is what I'm going to be stamping on. And then I die cut 2 more, one in the crumb cake, because this I'm just going to layer just to give it support because it's designer series paper. And then this will be for the inside. And then I've got my little flower, and this I just kind of die cut from the Everyday Essentials, and then the Spotlight on Nature. I'm just going to, for a little accent piece on the inside. And then just a piece of scrap paper, because we're going to stamp this first, and then I'm going to stamp it again and fussy cut it out, and then pop it up on a dimensional on there, just to give that a little oomph on there. So we're going to start off first with how you need to cut your cardstock. But before you do that, because I want to emboss this, I want to do that first. before I cut. So I'm going to put this in. Now, since this is going, I only want the front of my card to be texturized. I'm just going to place it in so that the edge of my folder is hitting right on that score line. And then I just want to make sure that I am in the folder straight. And I'm going to run this real quick through the embossing machine here off camera, so I don't have to adjust the camera. Alright, so now, there we have our corrugated card, and then I'm just going to fold this again because I went down a little. Looks like it shifted on me a little bit, but that's okay. I'm just going to refold this, give it a swipe with the bone folder. Okay, so now that's going to be the front of my card. So how I want to do my cutting, and again, you can totally just put this in the paper cutter and then just cut it. But if you want to be exact, like some of my dear friends and customers are, you're going to go on the left-hand side, you're going to go down 1 inch and make a mark. So down on the left, 1 inch, and on the right side, you're going to go down 3 inches and make a mark. Okay, so it was down 1 on the left and then down 3 on the right. And then basically you're going to go from this mark to this mark, and we're cutting that off. Then once that's cut off, that piece that is at the bottom, you're going to take off about a 1/2 inch off of that, and that's what I put on the inside of my card, because we need to, because we're creating this space. So if you want this to be wider, you would then take off a larger portion, like 3/4 of an inch or an inch, whatever you want your spacing. That's what you're going to cut off the bottom of that one piece. All right, so let's go ahead and cut from here to here. Just grab your paper trimmer, and you just want to make sure you're placing that in so that you've got, so I've got 1 inch. If you can see this, oops, I might need to shift a few things here. Sorry, let me actually bump out. There we go, just so you can kind of see. So I've got my tick mark here, and then my other tick mark is here. So I need to make sure that that is lined up where my paper trimmer is going to be cutting. So got a tick mark here, the tick mark here. That looks good. And then we're just gonna cut that off. Okay, so that's your top. Now, this was a piece that we just cut off. Okay, so now we want to take a 1/2 inch off of this bottom. I'm gonna go in this way, it's a little bit easier. So we just want a 1/2 inch off the bottom. And again, if you want to be a little bit wider, you certainly can go, you can take 3/4 of an inch, you can do an inch, whatever your heart desires. All right, and that is it for the cutting. Room, let's zoom back in. There we go. All right, so this piece that we cut off, again, I just keep that. I'm going to decorate it on the inside. All right, so now we've got our top piece, and then we have our bottom piece. Okay, and I'm going to actually erase those little tick marks I just had on here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put my designer series paper in the inside. So again, this was at 4 by 5 1/4. Set that aside, get out my glue. Yeah, I really like both of these. What to do, what to do. Maybe I'll just do, yeah, I'll do this one. And so my cardstock I'm using is pecan pie. And then I will be using one of our retiring in colors, which is Boho Blue. I'm kind of, you know, when those colors came out, like, you know, it had the wild wheat, which I was like, oh my gosh, I'll never use that color. I'm so sad that it's retiring because I really like that color now. And then the Pebbled Path and the Boho Blue, I use them a lot. So I'm a little sad that they're retiring. Okay, so now we want to get these pieces attached. So I'm going to do my stamping on that rectangular die cut that I had done. So I'm just going to set these aside for now. And then I need this and that. And what else am I stamping on? I need to stamp this. Okay, so we're going to start with the flower. So I'm going to, actually, no, I'm going to do my leaf first because that is in the background. Okay, so on this Natural Botanicals, this is what they call, it's kind of a reversible. So one side is going to have the texture side, the other side will be that solid image. And sometimes, you know, depending on how the image lays out, it doesn't do a mirrored image. So just kind of be aware of that, you know, when you're doing it, when you're looking at it. It's like, oh, it doesn't do quite a mirrored image. So I'm going to do crumb cake, and I've got the outline image is what I'm going to be the stamping on. So this is just the crumb cake, and I'm just stamping on that textured designer series paper. And I'm just going to kind of do this a little bit at an angle. Sometimes I like stamping on the designer series paper. It just kind of gives you a little bit more textured look to it. So again, if I would have done, then you flip it over. So now this is the smooth side. So when you go to stamp this, see how it means it's not a mirrored image. So it'd be going the opposite way. So that's why when you look at it, you're like, oh, I want it to be exactly like the shadow. So just know that some of these, they don't always align up like a mirrored image. Okay, and now we can do our flower. So for the flower, I'm going to stamp it once, and I've got the textured side up. And I'm going to do this all in Old Olive. And then what I'll do is I'll stamp it, I'll clean it, and I'll stamp it again on this paper, and then we'll color it, and then fussy cut it, and then pop it up. So we'll just put this right about there. All right, give it a quick clean. Okay. All right, now I'm going to ink it up again in the black, and this I don't need to do the whole thing, so I'm just going to basically just kind of stamp that top part because that's all I'm going to be cutting out. And this black pad, what I did is I took one of our uninked ink pads, and then I inked it up with our Memento ink refill, because I like having that a little bit of a, basically that foam style ink pad. All right, and now we can go ahead and color this with the Stampin' Blend. So then again, this is the one of the retiring ink colors. So these are the light and dark boho blue. So I'm going to real quick just kind of color my petals here. Clean up so I don't get ink all over. Yeah, it's our spring. Ugh, I don't know if it'll ever arrive, or we'll go straight into summer probably. But my sister who lives in Texas, she was sending me pictures of all of her flowers she was planting. And I'm like, oh, it's 32 here today. So there's no planting flowers anytime soon in Minnesota. It's just been weird. We had like a few days that were just gorgeous. You know, we did get up into the 70s, but I don't know. Then it goes right back down to the cold. And so when spring does arrive, I'll be very happy because it's just so brown and ugh, looking outside. And cold. So I have to make my own flowers with paper. Okay. And we'll do a little bit more kind of shading. As I always say, scribble and blend. That's all I do. All right, and then we'll do a little bit of the light and dark for the pecan pie for the center of the flower. I've got the light we're going to start with. I'll do a little bit of the dark. And then I'm going to take the, once I cut this out, I'll then do a little bit on the stem just to give it some dimension with the dark old olive. So I'm going to grab some scissors here and fussy cut this. So a lot of times what I find when you do the fussy cut, it's easier to work with a smaller piece of cardstock. And there's Ezera. She is down in the stamp room with me. We did get her down the steps in the basement here. She's got arthritis pretty bad in her hips, and man, it's starting to really show. And we give her supplements and everything, but it's just old age. Hi, Miss Ezera. She's going to be 13 in June. But she's still, you know, her mind is still, she thinks she's a 4-year-old. Oh, and she wants to start playing right now, which, ugh. I don't want her falling over. Ezera, no, no. But her old body can't keep up with her. But she's still young at heart. All right, so there we go. I know I wish there was a die for every stamp set because I hate fussy cutting. There we go. All right. Then we're going to pop this onto a dimensional. Use up the last of my scraps here. Like, that's what I love about our dimensionals. You can use there's no waste. Use up all the pieces. You just end up just cutting them. All right, so we're just going to throw some dimensionals here and here. Another one kind of in the center. Oh my gosh, she's gonna, her tail just hit the pole. Oh, she's such a goofy girl. All right, so then I'm just gonna layer this right on top of where that green flower was. And then I'm gonna take the dark, oh my goodness, she's gonna hurt herself. And I'm just doing some shading. There we go. Just to give it a little bit of dimension. And then I think on here, I want to just add a little bit of the white gel pen, just for some accents. Ezera! Oh my goodness. You're going to wear yourself out. No, she says. Okay, so now that is good. And then I'm going to take my saying, which I did. This one is going to be from the Textured Notes. I'm just doing a little note of appreciation. I'm going to do that in Mossy Meadow. we stamp this straight, we'll just kind of put it right about there. Perfect. And then the inside, I need to actually stamp one more thing here. Hi, Miss Ezera. All right, so on this part, we're going to do the thank you. Yeah, I really like this font. It's really pretty. And then my other little piece, so that's going to go on the inside. I have my flower, and I wanted to ink that up onto my crumb cake. And then, so this again is another, it's from that, it's still at double-sided, so I'm working on the outline image. And then I'm going to color this one using my little white craft pad to make my daisy be white. So I'm going to take some craft, the white craft ink refill, and I just put a little bit, ooh, looks like this is one of my older bottles. I'm just putting a little bit on my silicone mat here. Oh, yeah, yeah. I have to clean that up. I got ink everywhere. And then I just take a water painter, or you can take a blender pen. I'm just looking at, oh yeah, here we go. And I'm just going to make sure my bristles are a little wet. And I'm just going to mix this up. I don't want to put tons of water here. I just want to pick up this white craft ink. And then we're just going to paint our daisy. So this is another way you can do, like when you're stamping on a little bit darker cardstock, if you want to color something. And then once this dries, if you wanted to color on top of this, you can certainly do that. It's another little technique. You can also use your white watercolor pencil. That works too for this technique. But I wanted my little daisy here to be white. Okay, and then just clean off your water painter, wipe up your mess. That's why I like having the silicone mats underneath or on top of my glass mat. And then I'm going to do one more coloring here just on the center with that pecan pie. And then doing a little bit of the dark for the shading. All right, and then that can be attached onto my boho blue spotlight circle that I die cut out. Okay, so that's ready. And then again, this is going to be going on my front. So again, because this was designer series paper, you know, it's kind of flimsy. So I'm going to attach this onto the crumb cake. It's the same size, and I did the same die just to give it a little bit of support. Make sure that's all in there. Okay. Then what I do, so this is going to be closed, and I usually take some low tack tape, you know, your washi tape, anything that's not going to tear your cardstock, because we need to basically just kind of hold this together so it doesn't shift while we're attaching this piece. And then you can either glue this on, you can do dimensionals. I'm actually going to do, I think, dimensionals on this one, just because I find it's a little bit easier. I was looking for my newer pack because I do want a little bit bigger dimensionals on here. So I'm going to just put one on each corner, basically is all I really need for this shape. But again, you don't have to do dimensionals. I just find that it's a little bit easier working with dimensionals when you go to attach the two pieces together. All right, so then just like so. What would help if I took the backings off? Try that again. All right. That looks good. And then you can go ahead and remove your low tack tape. And so now our pieces are held together by that die cut. And I think, so sometimes if you know how this is kind of flopping around, I'm going to add another dimensional just to secure that a little bit better. So you may need to add a few more, you know, depending on if you've got some, like I said, this is a big, it's kind of flimsy looking right there. So I'm going to put one more dimensional just to secure that. And then this one, I think, yeah, we'll do the same thing here because see how this is kind of flimsy. We'll do another one just to hold that piece in place a little bit better. There we go. There, and that way it doesn't seem flimsy on that. Perfect. Okay, then we just add our same size die cut that we did, and I'm going to, and this is where I just kind of eyeball it a little bit just to make sure that, you know, it's not showing through. So that looks pretty good. And then I just add my glue. And I just real gently, I don't press super hard just in case I need to kind of shift this a little bit. And then I just do a spot check to make sure it's good. And then my little flower that I die cut out, I think I will just put it on the bottom here so it doesn't show. Yep, that looks good. And I'm just going to give this a real quick little, there we go. Oh, and then I forgot to put this in. A lot of times, yeah, so this is that piece we cut off. And of course I have to got that down there now, but so I won't do it. But a lot of times I'll take that, you know, 1/2-inch strip that we cut off and I put it in. I use it on the inside of the card, but we've got, I don't think I can lift this up without tearing. Yeah, we won't. I'll save it for another card. So, all right, and then we're just going to add a little bit of bling. These are some new neutral matte dots that are in the online store, online exclusives. So let's do a couple of these. I think I might do you'll do kind of this ivory color. It's kind of like the basic beige. We'll do one here. And you always want to do somewhat of a triangle when you're applying your gems. All right, and that is the split panel layout. So super fun and easy, and like I said, you can do, you know, a variety of layouts for this. When I did the more the vertical one, again, it's still that 1/2 inch. I might have done a little bit. No, I think that was a 1/2 inch. You're still cutting off that 1/2 inch, you know, and then again, just kind of layering your pieces on there. So super fun. Lots of endless possibilities on the way you can do this. So thanks again for watching. Have a great and creative day. And if you have not subscribed to my channel, please do so. I appreciate the support. And I will stamp again with you soon. Thanks again. Bye-bye.